What do we actually know about Viking runic inscriptions? And how much of what we think we know might be wrong? In the hush of morning mist, on the edge of the known world, someone carved a message into stone meant to last 1,000 years. But what were they trying to say? Welcome to Whispered Chronicles. Let's explore Gotland, a Baltic outpost of traders, raiders, and silent sentinels. Those who've seen the island speak of a heavy silence, even in summer, the land of Vikings, Celts, and stones. Since prehistory, people have come to this place to build, bury, and inscribe. On an ordinary boulder, beside an ordinary Bronze Age burial mound, someone long ago carved 9 runic letters. Nothing remarkable at first glance. That is, until you realize 3 things. First, there are 8 letters of the younger Futhark here. The typical runic alphabet used by Germanic peoples from the 2nd to the 8th centuries AD. But the 9th letter, well, that's a blank space. Second, this is a very special stone. An archaeological site called Hjortsberga, located on a hilltop overlooking the sea. And right here at the edge of the island's central ridge, there are more than 100 burial mounds from the Iron Age. This must have been some kind of important place. Perhaps a ceremonial center, but we don't know for sure. Third, and perhaps most importantly, this boulder lies along an ancient processional way, lined with standing stones leading from the shore to a ritualistic complex deep in the woods. It's called a gaggle. These monolithic pillars are a unique feature of Gotland. While similar formations exist across Europe, including the famous Carnac stones in Brittany, France, nobody knows exactly why they were erected. Scholars speculate that they served as territorial markers, astronomical observatories, gathering points, or even as defense against invaders. Here, the island's builders shaped over 2,000 stones into an enormous enclosure, almost a mile long. Some stand 3 feet tall, others reach over 10 feet. Altogether, they form the largest prehistoric monument in Scandinavia. Yet archaeologists have found no trace of permanent settlements, no homes or farms or workshops, just the remains of occasional camps nearby. It's as though the people who raised the gaggles had no intention of staying put. So whoever placed this stone here might have been part of an annual procession, as a solemn pilgrimage to an unknown destination. But why, we can't say. But we do know this stone came from a quarry on the same hill. An ancient pit filled with discarded blocks, showing the marks of Bronze Age pickaxes. Maybe those early farmers saw something special in this rock, something worth preserving. Maybe they saw themselves in its shape, or a story in its texture. In a culture without written history, each stone monolith would have been a silent storyteller, passing down tales for generations. But the truth is, in the 3rd millennium BC, people didn't carve runes. They used petroglyphs, simple pictures etched onto surfaces, often rocks. These designs include animals, geometric patterns, boats, and weapons, human figures, and enigmatic symbols that scholars can't explain. Together, they form a rich visual language, a tapestry of Bronze Age life, beliefs, and experiences. Here's where our story takes a turn, because in the 14th century, after Sweden, Denmark, and Norway embraced Christianity, the old ways were suppressed, destroyed, forbidden, and then forgotten. By the Middle Ages, the islanders of Gotland were ordered to abandon the paganism of their ancestors, replacing it with a new state-sponsored religion. Many of the island's petroglyphs were defaced or erased during this upheaval, yet not all. Some survived, hidden in plain sight, blending with newer carvings, or covered by earth and moss, waiting for the right moment to be rediscovered. This next stone wasn't officially rediscovered until 1920. Before that, it was thought to be nothing more than a field marker, plopped into the ground for cows or sheep. Only when archaeologists arrived did they see that it was crafted with care, likely placed intentionally, and inscribed with 2 runic characters. Their signs look like this. So far, so good. You may notice that these characters aren't in the younger Futhark, which again, is the typical runic alphabet used by Germanic peoples from the 2nd to the 8th centuries AD. Instead, they're elder Futhark runes. A dozen or so signs used from the 2nd to the 6th centuries, roughly speaking. So how do we make sense of that? Well, the answer depends on how you read this ruin. In fact, it was carved by someone who wanted to remain anonymous, leaving behind an inscription that no one could decipher. There are many possible explanations. First, the stone might hold a personal message, a secret note meant for a select few. After all, the inscription's face down, away from the road in the village. In this case, the author wouldn't have cared if the general public couldn't read their writing. Second, this might be a coded message. Maybe the true meaning appears elsewhere, or is known only to the initiated. Or third, the carving is fake, a modern forgery meant to confuse future archaeologists. Either way, that's enough speculation for now. For our purposes, this runestone serves as an important reminder. The world we inhabit today is built on layers of history. What seems obvious now, like a runestone, may have seemed mysterious hundreds of years ago. And what appears lost forever may resurface in the most unexpected places. Back in the 1920s, when Swedish archaeologist Holger Bergstedt rediscovered this runestone, he was excited. Not because he expected to find a secret message or a coded text, but because he found the earliest known example of Christian runic lettering on Gotland. He also saw an opportunity to study the island's lost past. When excavations began here in 1918, it quickly became clear that the churchyard at Stiles was built on top of a large Viking Age settlement. And this tiny church, constructed in the late 12th century, is itself demolished in the 14th century to make way for a larger building. By 1927, Bergstedt had unearthed over 100 graves. Many of the dead wore elaborate jewelry made of silver and garnet, suggesting wealth and power, but the cemetery clearly belonged to more than the elite. There were dozens of children's burials too, along with several animal remains, indicating cremation rituals. More remarkably, archaeologists discovered a huge collection of everyday objects. Things that would normally disintegrate, like textiles, leather, wood, and bone. Underneath the church, preserved in a natural gas pocket, was a treasure trove of Viking Age life. Better yet, buried on this sacred ground was the earliest Christian runic cross in Scandinavia, and the oldest surviving rhyton, a fancy drinking horn. To add to the intrigue, there was evidence of a massive fire, perhaps caused by invading forces. Was this an act of retribution? And who could it have been? Finally, there were two houses built in the 9th or 10th centuries, complete with hearths, furniture, and household items. The discovery shook Sweden. Never before had anything like it been found, in a country. Archaeologists hadn't studied Viking burials before, and this discovery forced them to reevaluate how valuable such sites could be. By the end of the excavation, they had unearthed over 2,000 artifacts. Now, fast forward to the 21st century, when scientists returned to this holy ground. With new technology and fresh eyes, they uncovered even more stories. Analysis revealed how the landscape changed over time. Gas bubbles trapped inside the soil revealed the atmosphere's chemistry. An organic material recovered from the water table told us how the island's people farmed, hunted, and lived. Perhaps most fascinating is that this cemetery wasn't the only one. Between 1984 and 1987, archaeologists explored a second cemetery less than a mile away. There they found 45 graves, mostly from the 9th century, and nearly 1,000 artifacts, including this incredible silver brooch depicting two warriors locked in battle. With these discoveries, the researchers realized that Stiles was no ordinary town. It was a regional hub, a marketplace where elite merchants gathered to trade and bury their dead. They also learned that the city's founders, the Berger family, had deeper ties to the rest of Scandinavia than anyone had imagined. Thanks to a new technique called ancient DNA analysis, researchers identified the remains of a woman buried under the church. She died in the 9th century, at least 300 years before the church was built. Her bones showed traces of leprosy, a genetic disease that causes swelling, disfigurement, and sometimes paralysis. But her grave goods, like these imported luxury brooches, suggested she was still a member of the Berger clan. By comparing her DNA to modern Scandinavians, scientists traced her ancestry back to contemporary Danish royalty. Today, Stiles looks like any peaceful Swedish town. A quiet main street leads to a sparkling harbor dotted with sailboats. But once upon a time, this place teemed with international merchants and powerful nobles, and somewhere underneath the cobblestones and quaint cottages, their ghosts still linger. Now, we want to hear from you. What do you find most intriguing about Gotland? Is it the mysterious runestones, or the tales of Viking seafarers? Let us know in the comments section below. Don't forget to subscribe for more captivating historical tales. Thank you for joining us on this journey through time. Till next time, keep exploring.